Welcome to Beyond the Stars, where stories don't just take you to other worlds, they bring you home to the unexpected. Tonight's tale begins with a law written in the stars and a contract soaked in blood. One assassin, four royal sisters, and a choice that will shake the entire galaxy. This is, by galactic law, I had to marry all the princesses, but I chose something more. Buckle up, traveler. Because out here, nothing is as it seems. And sometimes, even the deadliest ghosts can find a reason to stay. Chapter 1, The Ghost in the Rain. Rain sliced through the neon-smeared night of Neostratos, each droplet refracting the fractured glow of the city's endless skyline. The city pulsed vertically, commerce above, chaos below, silence in between. From the ledge of the 41st floor of the St. Tower Annex, a lone figure stood motionless, barely distinguishable from the shadows that cloaked him. Caleb Stray, the man known across 5 sectors as the Ghost, exhaled slowly. His black coat fluttered in the wind like a banner from a forgotten war. His hood, coated with anti-scan fibers and micro-rain dispersers, shrouded his face completely. In his right hand, he held a blade so thin, it vanished depending on the angle. A raindrop fell. Caleb sliced through it without moving his feet. The water split in 2 perfect hemispheres. 49 divided, he murmured. Another drop fell. This one missed the blade. He sheathed the knife with a motion so swift, it was as if the weapon had never been there. A soft whirring noise broke the silence. A chrome orb rolled to his side on 3 delicate legs, slipping slightly on the wet rooftop before stabilizing. Its center iris dilated in mimicry of astonishment. "I want to try too," chirped a cheerful voice. The orb's modulator had switched to its enthusiastic companion setting, woefully inappropriate for the grim ambiance. "Pix," Caleb said quietly, not turning. "It's not a game." But the AI companion, model P1X, designation Pix, was already mimicking his stance. One of its arms extended, a ridiculous plastic imitation of a blade projecting from its side. "Raindrops, prepare to be vanquished," Pix announced, spinning like an excited toddler. Its blade whiffed the air, missing every drop. "This is harder than anticipated," it chirped, then promptly toppled over and lay on its back like an upturned turtle. Caleb allowed the corner of his mouth to twitch upward. Barely. Pix blinked up at him. "Maybe we should simply appreciate the rain's unity. Why must we always divide things?" Caleb didn't answer. He pressed 2 fingers to the neural implant behind his ear. "Status update," he said. Pix's optics shifted from playful to professional. It righted itself with a soft click. "Contract authorized by the Guild," it replied. "Target, Eminus Rec, high-ranking member of the Rec Syndicate. Primary offense, child trafficking. 6 confirmed sales to Neuron Nane. Payout, 800,000 credits on confirmation." Caleb pulled his hood lower. "Location? Level 29, West Quadrant, Luxury Suite, Tower Silas." "Let's go." Without hesitation, he stepped off the edge. The first 50 feet of free fall were silent. Wind roared past his ears. Then he activated the gravitational dampeners in his boots, angling his descent. His body became a missile, slicing through the dense fog and city noise. He struck the side of the building at the 37th floor, crashing through reinforced glass like it was paper. Shards exploded inward. People screamed. Caleb rolled, came up, and punched the floor. The nano-weakeners in his gloves liquefied the composite beneath him. He dropped through to the 36th floor, then 35th, then 34th. Each floor fell away beneath him like paper panels in a stage play. By the time he reached the 30th, security had activated. Laser grids flared to life. He dodged through them, spinning, flipping, twisting, his movements inhuman. The boots absorbed each impact, converting energy for propulsion to the next drop. Above him, Pix hovered through the holes Caleb had left behind, shielded in its kinetic bubble. "So much property damage," the droid muttered. The elevator was right there. At last, Caleb smashed through the ornate ceiling of the 29th floor penthouse and landed in a controlled crash, glass and dust spiraling around him. He was crouched, blade in hand, before the room's occupants could react. Eminus Rex sat in the center of the suite like a grotesque spider. The alien's bloated form draped across a circular bed, his 3 eyes widening in horror. Around him, 6 young women of different species sat motionless, neural collars glowing faintly at their throats. "What does the mean?" Amina sputtered. The translator struggled with his guttural language. "You're the ghost," the alien gasped. Caleb rose to his full height, the blade glowing with a soft blue edge. "I have money," Amina shrieked, slithering back across silk sheets. "Double! Triple!" 2 bodyguards lunged from the shadows, hulking mercs with plasma rifles. Caleb flicked his wrist. 2 razor-thin microfilament discs hissed across the room. They struck the guards' necks and bloomed, severing neural pathways. Both collapsed. "Women!" Amina screamed. "Take them!" He gestured at the captives. "Credits, 17 systems. I own a pleasure satellite." "You sold children," Caleb said. "Business, just business." Caleb's blade flashed. The alien's head hit the ground with a wet thud. Picks descended from above. "Well, that escalated quickly," the droid said, peering at the severed head. "Perhaps a stern letter next time?" Caleb ignored it. He walked to the nearest captive, an alien girl with soft red scales. With a flick, he deactivated her collar. One by one, he freed the others. When he reached the last, a green-skinned woman with shimmering eyes, she didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled. "I knew someone would kill him eventually," she said. "I just didn't expect it to be you." Caleb turned to leave, but she stepped into his path. "My name's Kayla," she whispered, "and you just gave me my first taste of freedom." She moved close, too close. Her hand rested lightly on his chest. Pix rolled nervously. Is this what organics call flirtation?" Kayla's fingers traced the seam of Caleb's armor. "Let me thank you. Properly." Caleb caught her wrist, firm but not unkind. "We're done here." But Kayla didn't back away. "Such a cold man," she murmured. "All that power. Don't you want to feel something besides death?" Before he could reply, the neural implant buzzed. New contract. Pix hovered, eyes wide. "Priority Alpha," it said. "Target, Princess Althea Lyros. Location, level 28. Pursued by 3 elite hunters." Caleb's eyes narrowed. He moved to the shattered window. Through the rain, he spotted a lone figure sprinting across the walkway below. Hood low, chased by shadows. Caleb reached for him again. "Another time," he said. Then he jumped, coat billowing behind him like wings, as the ghost vanished into the storm. Chapter 2. The green-eyed captive. The rain outside still hadn't stopped. It clattered against the shattered windows like the memory of war tapping on glass. Caleb Stray stood in the center of the now silent suite, the last body cooling behind him. The 6 freed captives gathered in a quiet cluster, trembling, confused, and silent, except for one, Kayla. She stood apart from the others, calm, poised. Where the others had collapsed or huddled, Kayla stretched, rolled her shoulders, and ran her fingers gently along the sore, raw skin where the collar had once burned her neck. Her skin shimmered, green with traces of gold, almost luminous in the flickering overhead lights. "Thank you," she said, her voice honeyed but firm, "for killing that monster." Caleb didn't respond. He was already halfway through activating the room's secure terminal, linking it to his implant. Pix buzzed beside him, still in business mode. "I've alerted sector enforcement," the droid announced. "Evidence of the trafficking operation has been archived, uploaded, and mirrored in off-grid repositories. They'll trace his accounts across the systems, if they're not already looted by his associates." Caleb finished uploading the room's encrypted files, the data streaming directly into his neural mesh. Banking records, client logs, shipment manifests. Ugly, predictable things. His eyes flicked to the women. "You're free now," he said, the voice low. "There's a lift down the hall. Enforcement will arrive in under 10 minutes. Stay together." Caleb took a step forward. "That's it?" Caleb glanced at her. "You expect more?" he asked. "I expected less," she said, smiling slightly, "but now I want more." She moved toward him again, eyes shimmering. Her green and gold irises shifted subtly in the light, like bioengineered cat's eyes. Her expression was unreadable, somewhere between gratitude and seduction. "For 3 years, I was nothing but a decoration in his menagerie. Before that, I was a dancer on Elysium Prime. But now, you've made me feel like something more." He turned away. You don't know me, he said. I know what I see, she replied. I see the infamous ghost standing alone in the rain, slicing the world into pieces with a blade so fine it cuts truth from illusion. Caleb paused. I don't feel anything, Rob, he said. That's the lie you tell yourself, Kayla whispered. Her hand reached up again, brushing his armored chest, seeking the seam between synthetic mesh and flesh. Don't. He gripped her wrist, not roughly, but firmly enough that she froze. Their eyes locked for a long moment. Then his neural implant pulsed. 3 short bursts, priority contract. Pix buzzed in excitement. Ooh, new target, priority alpha. Caleb released Kayla's hand and stepped away. Who? Pix's holographic interface popped up midair, flickering with data. Princess Althea Lyros, it announced, voice reverent and dramatic. Accused of regicide, wanted dead or alive. Confirmed bounty, 15 million galactic certified credits. Caleb's brow tightened just slightly. Location? Level 28, Pix said. East Promenade. She's being pursued by 3 Class 4 augmented hunters. Chronosian tech. Very nasty types. And, oh, she's running this way. He crossed the room in seconds, stepping into the broken frame of the window and scanning the city below. Rain swept sideways in the storm winds. Through the neon reflections and walkway lights, he spotted her. A slim figure in practical combat gear, her hood pulled low. She was fast, but not fast enough. 3 larger shadows hunted her. Efficient, coordinated. Pix hovered behind him. Shall I prepare the polite diplomatic greeting, or are we? Caleb jumped. He fell like a thunderbolt, slicing through layers of electric haze and rain. His boots roared as the gravitational dampeners kicked in, slowing his fall just enough. His coat snapped behind him like a war banner. On level 28, the promenade was crowded with late-night pedestrians, unaware of the hunter and the hunted racing through them. Princess Althea Lyros moved like someone trained to survive, but not raised for chaos. Her steps were graceful, but she stumbled once, just enough. The Chronosian hunter behind her raised his rifle. Caleb landed. His boots cratered the synthetic ground beneath him, sending pedestrians flying in all directions. Water and debris sprayed outward in concentric ripples. He landed directly in Althea's path. She skidded to a halt, eyes wide. One was vivid blue, the other deep violet, heterochromatic, instantly recognizable from the intelligence briefings. Even under the rain and grime, she was striking. Move, she ordered, trying to dart around him. He didn't. Princess Althea Lyros, he said flatly, you've got a price on your head. She stopped, half in disbelief. The ghost? Her voice carried the clipped cadence of galactic nobility, but her tone cracked slightly under the weight of fear. They sent you? That's overkill. Before Caleb could respond, her pursuers arrived. 3 of them. One massive, flesh reinforced with armored plating. One lean and fast, optic implants glowing red. And the third, a Chronosian with a cybernetic jaw and voice like gravel. Stand down, ghost, the Chronosian growled. She's our contract. 3 seconds to back off, Caleb replied calmly. Pix descended behind him. Oh dear, the droid muttered. This seems like a poor moment to attempt diplomacy. Caleb's eyes stayed locked on the hunters. The Chronosian's pulse rifle charged. The hunt was on again. Hunt. Chapter 3. Falling into the chase, the Chronosian raised his weapon, the pulse rifle whining with a rising energy charge. Crowds scattered, screaming as they ducked into doorways and alleys. The storm intensified, rain slashing sideways in blinding sheets. Princess Althea Lyros shifted behind Caleb, crouching, a small vibro dagger slipping into her palm from beneath her sleeve. Step aside, ghost, the Chronosian barked. She's ours. Caleb didn't move. He assessed them in seconds. 1, the Chronosian commander, augmented with servo motor strength and aiming tech in his visor. Dangerous but predictable. 2, the agile assassin, likely optical specialist, already flanking with enhanced speed. 3, the flesh tank, a brute with dermal armor plating, acting as the anchor. Amateurs, he thought. You've got 3 seconds to disappear, Caleb said quietly. That's funny, the assassin hissed, her mechanical irises glowing. We were about to say the same to you. The Chronosian fired. Caleb was already moving. He slid beneath the first energy bolt, his momentum carrying him into a tight spin. The second bolt scorched the space where he'd just been. A third sizzled overhead. The assassin lunged from his blind side, viro claws flicking from her gauntlets. Caleb parried with the flat of his blade, deflecting the claws and spinning into her guard. He struck low, knee to midsection section, then twisted and sent her sprawling with a calculated strike to her shoulder joint. Something cracked. Getting slow, Ghost, she gasped, reorienting with a snarl. The flesh tank charged in next, fists the size of engine blocks slamming toward Caleb. He flipped backward, letting the brute's momentum carry him forward. As the tank's fist dented a nearby wall, Caleb flicked his wrist, launching two needle-thin projectiles into the tank's back. Sparks erupted as the tiny blades tried to pierce the armor. Not enough. Pix, Caleb snapped. Distract! Always with the violence, the droid whined, bobbing into action. It zipped between the tank's eyes, projecting holograms of explosions and kittens. The Chronosian circled around to flank. Althea ducked under his aim and slashed with her vibro dagger. He blocked, but it gave Caleb the opening he needed. He twisted between the flesh tank's legs, slashing at vulnerable joint seams in the armor. The tank roared. One gauntlet crashed down, but Caleb wasn't there. The optical assassin returned, claws extended, raining blows down on him. You could have walked away with 15 million credits, she hissed. But you'll die protecting a traitor princess? Caleb dodged. Your intel's compromised. She laughed, a harsh metallic sound. We all saw the footage, Althea plunging a blade into the king's chest. The entire Galactic Council witnessed it. Caleb's gaze flicked to Althea. She was darting between the tank's legs again, slicing at the same weakened armor seams he had targeted. Smart. Precise. But the distraction cost him. The assassin raked her claws across his shoulder. Sparks flew. Reinforced fibers split. Blood flowed. He grunted, twisted her arm, and drove his elbow into her jaw. Her head snapped back. Electrical feedback surged through her system. She screamed as her ocular implants shorted out in a spray of sparks. She dropped. The tank, enraged, slammed both fists down. Althea rolled out of the way at the last second, landing hard against the promenade's guardrails. Beyond them, a 1,000-foot drop. I'll bring you in pieces if I have to, the brute growled. The contract only requires identifiable remains. Caleb advanced behind him, blade ready. Your partners are down, he said coldly. I know who you are, Ghost, the tank rumbled. I know what you are. He turned, armor plating shifting. A dozen mini-missiles launched from his back in a deadly arc. Pedestrians screamed. Althea dove, rolling across the slick tiles. Caleb charged into the missiles. His coat burned. Fire erupted in a spiral. But he emerged through the smoke like a phantom. Face unreadable, eyes locked on the tank. Pix, he called. Non-lethal distraction protocol, online, Pix shouted. The droid spun circles around the tank's head, flashing lights, emitting sirens, and yelling fun facts about dolphins. Caleb used the opening. He leapt, driving his blade between the tank's upper armor plates, right at the neural trunk junction. The brute screamed, trying to shake him off. Caleb held firm, plunging the blade again. Sparks flew. Systems failed. What are you? The tank choked. I'm what they made, Caleb said, when soldiers weren't lethal enough. He twisted the blade one final time. The tank collapsed with a seismic thud. Silence. Steam rose from broken tiles and shattered glass. Civilians stared from behind cover. Only Caleb, Pix, and Althea stood amid the wreckage. The princess's dagger was still in her hand, but she wasn't aiming it at him. Are you going to try next? She asked, voice taut. Caleb considered it. He could disable her now, drag her unconscious to his ship, claim the reward, 15 million credits, freedom from contracts, enough to vanish forever. But he didn't move. He looked into her eyes, blue and violet. No rage, no fear, only sorrow. You're not a killer, he said. She blinked. Excuse me? He shook his head. Your eyes. They're not the eyes of someone who murdered her father. She laughed once, bitter. And you're an expert on murderers? I see them in the mirror, he replied. Pix floated between them, eyes wide. So, we're not killing her? Oh, this is such a plot twist. Althea lowered her dagger slightly. Why would you believe me? She asked, voice quieter. Everyone saw the footage. Because I've killed 273 people, Caleb said. I know who's capable of taking a life and who isn't. Her lips trembled. You're wrong. I have killed. Just not my father. Rain streaked down her face, mingling with the shimmer of violet blood from a cut above her eyebrow. Sirens wailed in the distance. Caleb turned. We need to move. More hunters will come. Why help me? She asked. Why not take the credits? Because I don't like being lied to, he said. And someone lied big to make me come after you. Pick spun nervously. I suggest a strategic retreat, with less missiles, less slicing, and perhaps some tea? Caleb activated his implant. Extraction, level 28, northeast quadrant, 2 passengers. 3, Pix corrected indignantly. 3, he amended. Althea hesitated, then lowered the dagger completely. Fine, she said, but this doesn't mean I trust you. Caleb gave her a look. Wise decision. They disappeared into the rain together, just as the next wave of hunters began to close in. Chapter 4. The Princess and the Ghost. The hideout was buried within the skeletal remains of a decommissioned atmospheric processor on Neostratus's forgotten industrial rim. A relic of a century-old terraforming project, long since abandoned to rust and acid rain. There were no windows, only one way in or out, and enough defensive countermeasures to rival a small military outpost. Caleb preferred it that way. He moved with silent efficiency through the chamber's dim red glow, shrugging off his coat and tossing it onto a table cluttered with weapons, repair kits, and half-dismantled surveillance tech. Blood soaked the left shoulder of his undersuit, and his breathing had taken on a rougher edge. Althea Lyros stood near the far wall, surveying the surroundings with the same sharp eye that had likely earned her royal station, back when she still had one. Her hood had been pulled back, revealing her violet skin and heterochromatic eyes in full clarity. She had cleaned the cut above her brow with a med kit, but had refused any further help. She didn't trust him. Not yet. Pix hovered between them, sensors flicking from red to yellow, analyzing Caleb's wounds. Minimal muscle damage, the droid announced, but you are now officially over quota for lacerations this month. 4 injuries in 17 days. Might I suggest a career in something less stabby? Caleb grunted. He dropped into a chair and pulled the seal on a bottle of synth alcohol. Half the drink went into his shoulder as disinfectant, the rest into his mouth. Althea crossed her arms. You're bleeding out in a chair, and I'm still a fugitive. Not exactly a rescue. Wasn't trying to rescue you, Caleb muttered. Was trying to figure out why someone put 15 million credits on your head. And? You don't move like a killer, he said. Then you weren't watching closely enough. Their eyes locked. Hers weren't begging for pity. They burned with something deeper. A buried fury. A refusal to break. Talk, Caleb said. Althea didn't hesitate. My father, King Thalor, was murdered 6 weeks ago, on the night before I was to present evidence of his involvement in illegal biological research. Caleb's fingers paused on the bandage he was wrapping. What kind of research? Genetic manipulation, human experimentation, on children. She didn't flinch when she said it, but Caleb did. She stepped closer, her voice calm, precise. I discovered it through old colonial excavation manifests. They led to Outpost NK-712. A supposedly defunct mining colony on Neuron 9. Caleb stood so fast the chair screeched back across the metal floor. Neuron 9, he said, eyes darkening. You've heard of it, she guessed. I was there. The words came before he could stop them. 7 years ago, contracted to eliminate a suspected terrorist lab. Intelligence suggested the facility was manufacturing bioweapons. When I arrived, everyone was already dead. Lab workers, security, test subjects. You saw what they wanted you to see, Althea said. He blinked. She stepped even closer, lowering her voice. They left the bodies, staged the scene. But some of the children were evacuated before you arrived. The experiments continued. Caleb's jaw clenched. He felt the old chill creep in, the one that used to numb him before ever to kill. I thought I was too late, he said, that I'd failed to save anyone. But maybe I didn't want to see the truth. Pix hovered silently, its sensors dimming in recognition of the weight in the room. Althea knelt to retrieve a small data pad from her satchel. She tapped a few commands and held it out. Everything I've collected, transport records, genetic logs, authorization codes. My father's biometric signature is on several of the directives, but he wasn't the real mastermind. He was a figurehead. Caleb took the pad. As his eyes skimmed the data, a hollow dread began to settle in his chest. Then who? Althea's voice was steady but brittle at the edges. The council, and someone very close to me. She paused. My sisters. The silence stretched. Caleb finally looked up. They framed you? Althea nodded. Someone used molecular masking tech to appear as me. Killed my father in front of the entire council. The footage shows me stabbing him with the ceremonial dagger I was supposed to use for the evidence hearing. And instead, Caleb muttered, you became the most wanted woman in the quadrant. I ran, she admitted, because I knew if I was captured, the truth would die with me. She turned away from him, walking to the windowless wall, resting her palm on the cold steel. I've been hunted by mercs, bounty killers, and royal assassins ever since. I've lost friends, allies, but I kept going because I had to expose what was done on Neuron 9. Caleb leaned against the table, arms folded. His thoughts raced. Names, contracts, missions that had seemed unrelated suddenly threading into the same blood-stained web. The system you tried to dismantle, Althea said without turning, it was built to protect itself. You're just one of its many blades. He didn't deny it. And yet, she added softly, you didn't bring me in. You didn't kill me. That's something. Pix hovered closer, voice quiet. This would be an excellent time for a hug. Or perhaps tea? Caleb ignored it. I want names, he said. Which sister gave the order? Althea turned. There are three, Reyna, Lucia, and Silra. I don't know which of them pulled the trigger, but I suspect Silra. She's changed. Cold, efficient, and the only one with access to Royal Guard command codes. And the others? I haven't spoken to them in months, Althea replied. They may be pawns in this, or worse. Caleb looked down at the data pad again. Neuron 9, children, syndicate accounts, genetic horror. His past was no longer something he could outrun. I'm not here to fix your dynasty, he said. I don't do politics. I don't do thrones. I don't want a throne, she replied. I want justice. A soft alarm beeped from the security console. Caleb moved fast, crossing the room and bringing up a schematic. His defenses had been breached. Someone's here, he muttered. Althea drew her dagger again. Friends of yours? She asked. Not unless they're wearing peace signs. A shockwave boomed from the entry corridor. The reinforced door crumpled inward with a deafening blast. Through the smoke stepped a tall woman in combat armor, skin the same royal violet as Althea's, but her eyes were sharper, her posture unmistakably military. Althea's breath caught. Reyna. Chapter 5. Sister, warrior, diplomat. The armored woman stood framed by smoke and sparks, a shadowed sentinel amidst the glowing wreckage. Her violet skin gleamed faintly beneath the tactical lights built into her form-fitted battlesuit. Her eyes, steel gray with a faint lavender ring, locked instantly onto Althea. Reyna, Althea whispered again, her voice wavering for the first time. Althea Lyros stepped forward, her energy blade still unignited but clutched tight in her gauntleted hand. Althea, she said flatly, scanning the room. You're alive. Althea lowered her dagger but didn't move. You're not here to kill me? I thought I'd have to, Reyna replied, until I saw him. Her gaze flicked to Caleb, who stood unmoved, one hand still near his concealed blade. I don't run with royalty, Caleb said coldly. No, Reyna replied. You run against them. That's why I followed you instead of the others. Pix zip-out between them, cautiously. Might I recommend a protocol where introductions aren't accompanied by high-yield explosives? Reyna ignored it. Why now? Althea asked. Where have you been? Watching. Listening. Reyna stepped closer, each motion measured like a trained soldier entering enemy territory. I knew the footage was fake. The problem wasn't believing in your innocence. It was knowing who else might believe in your guilt. Lucia, Althea asked. She's still on the fence, trying to hold the diplomatic line between family and the council. And Silra? Caleb asked. Reyna's jaw tightened. She's not the sister you remember. Althea and Reyna exchanged a look. There was history in it, shared training, shared battles, shared betrayals. Then the main doorway flashed again. This time, no explosion. Just the soft hiss of pressurized air releasing. Another figure entered, taller, more graceful, dressed not for war, but for influence. Althea Lyros glided into the room with all the elegance of a ballroom diplomat, despite the charred steel around her. Her lavender skin shimmered under embroidered sleeves, and her posture spoke of countless negotiations. She gave a small, diplomatic smile as her eyes flicked between Caleb, Althea, and Reyna. "Well," Lucia said with a practiced softness, "this is not how I imagined our family reunion." Althea folded her arms. "You're not surprised to see me alive." "Disappointed, maybe," Lucia said lightly, then her expression softened. "But not surprised. I always knew if anyone could survive a quadrant-wide manhunt, it would be you." She stepped forward and touched Althea's shoulder. There was tension, then a breath, and Althea let the contact linger. "I've missed you," Lucia added, just above a whisper. "What changed?" Caleb asked, watching her carefully. "I intercepted part of a council transmission," Lucia replied, turning to him. "Encrypted evidence logs sealed under Salro's private access keys, buried in the council's black archives." Well, Caleb narrowed his eyes. "Evidence of what?" "The Neuron 9 program," Lucia said grimly. "The experiments, the cover-ups. The council never just looked the other way. They approved it." Reyna pulled up a hologram from her vambrace and projected a series of documents into the air. Images of children in containment pods, biometric overlays, authorization logs signed with Salro's encrypted royal seal. "She's planning a consolidation," Reyna said. "A coup in everything but name. Once she pins the assassination on Althea, she'll invoke emergency powers and declare herself empress." "She already has the council's backing," Lucia added. "They think she'll bring order." "And order," Caleb muttered, "means silence." "Exactly." The three sisters looked at each other, not quite trusting, not quite reconciled, but the lines between them, once severed, had begun to reconnect. Then it happened. The temperature in the room dropped, the lights dimmed, and a slow, mocking clap echoed from the hallway. Another figure entered, this one unlike the others. Althea Lyros. She was regal, but not in the same way as her sisters. Her body moved with eerie precision. Her violet skin was laced with silver tracing lines, cybernetic augmentations that pulsed softly beneath the surface. Her eyes no longer held emotion, only calculation. Behind her, a dozen royal guards fanned out, silent, armed, unwavering. "Well done," Sarah said, her voice like silk on steel. "You've all gathered just as I expected. How delightfully theatrical." "Still playing the queen before the coronation?" Reyna spat, activating her energy blade with a flash of blue fire. "No theatrics, sister," Silra replied calmly. "Just inevitability." Lucia stepped forward. "You murdered our father." Silra shrugged. "Technically, someone wearing Althea's face did, but yes." Althea trembled, not from fear, but from fury. "Why?" "To clean the rot," Silra said. "The dynasty was fractured, indulgent, slow. I made it efficient, focused, and soon unified." "You wanted me dead," Althea snapped. "You hired killers, framed me, and turned the entire quadrant against me." "I gave you a chance to disappear," Silra said. "You chose to come back." Her eyes turned to Caleb. "And you, the infamous ghost. I thought I bought you off with 15 million credits." Caleb stepped forward, his tone like a blade through silence. "I don't work for murderers." "A shame," Silra replied. "You're rather good at it." She raised a hand. The guards leveled their weapons. Picks began to hum nervously. Reyna stepped in front of Althea. "You'll have to kill all of us." "Not yet," Silra said. "First, I want the people to see what rebellion looks like, what failure looks like." Her eyes gleamed. "Then they'll accept my reign without question." Here, she turned to leave. "Guards, arrest them." Weapons clicked. Caleb moved first. He threw a small blade, not at a person, but at the power core embedded in the far wall. Sparks erupted. The room plunged into darkness. Emergency lights flared red. Alarms screamed. Reyna charged into the guards. Lucia vanished into the shadows. Althea grabbed Caleb's hand. "Exit," she shouted. "Follow me," he growled. As they plunged into the chaos, one thought burned through Caleb's mind. This isn't about credits anymore. It's personal. Chapter 6. Blood and Betrayal. The room was chaos. Flashing red lights bathed the steel interior in an eerie glow, casting jagged shadows across the walls as sirens screamed and smoke thickened. Energy bolts zipped through the air like guided lightning. Every breath reeked of ozone and heat. Caleb ducked low, pivoting behind an overturned table as plasma fire shattered the control console behind him. The reinforced steel sizzled where the bolt struck, glowing molten orange. One shot had singed the edge of his coat. Again. "Second time this week," he muttered. Reyna was already in the middle of the fight, her energy blade slicing arcs of white-hot brilliance through the guards. She moved like a storm, precise, disciplined, deadly. For every strike she disabled rather than killed, limbs disarmed, weapons shattered, armor cracked. "Control your breathing," she barked at Lucia, who was moving along the wall's blind side, slender blade in hand. "I am breathing," Lucia snapped, ducking as a bolt slammed into the wall inches above her head. "Just with urgency." Althea stayed close to Caleb's flank, blade ready, eyes constantly scanning. They moved like two halves of the same vector now, fluid, reactive, connected by necessity. Picks darted above them all, dodging fire while broadcasting calming music at low volume. "Consider de-escalation through dialogue," the droid chirped. "Or at the very least, a ceasefire and snacks." Another bolt barely missed its casing. Pick screamed and zipped higher. "Definitely not snack time." Caleb spun from cover, hurling a flash charge toward a squad of advancing guards. The tiny device detonated midair, sending out a concussive pulse that dropped three of them instantly. The others hesitated, momentarily blinded. He seized the opening. "Althea, left corridor now!" They broke toward the secondary hallway. Caleb led the way, dropping one more guard with a brutal elbow to the neck. Althea followed, covering the rear with laser precision, slicing a blaster in half mid-shot. Lucia and Reyna retreated behind them, fending off the last wave of attackers. For a moment, the sisters regrouped, breathing heavy in the narrow corridor outside the core chamber. Lucia leaned against the wall, blood trickling from a shallow cut on her cheek. "That's the Silra I remember," she said grimly. "She's augmented," Reyna added, checking the charge on her blade. "Neuromuscular enhancements, combat preloading, possibly predictive reflex tech. She's faster than she should be." "She's also smarter," Althea said, tone cold, "and she knew we'd come." Caleb checked the layout on his wrist display. "This facility has 3 exits. All of them are locked by now." "So what's the plan?" Lucia asked. "Make a new exit." He pointed to a vertical maintenance shaft, long sealed but still connected to an external exhaust port. "We blow through this, drops us down 3 levels, into the old atmospheric tunnels. They'll be too big for Saura's guards to navigate and force." "And what about Saura?" Reyna asked. "She's mine," Althea said. Caleb turned to her, eyes narrowing. "She's augmented, faster, stronger." "I don't care." He held her gaze for a moment longer, then nodded once. "We do it together." Pix beeped urgently from above. "Apologies for interrupting the Vengeance Pact, but Silra's heat signature is moving fast. She's coming." "No time," Caleb said. "Everyone in the shaft." They dropped one by one, Pix first, then Lucia, then Reyna. Althea stepped to the edge. Before she could descend, the corridor trembled. Silra appeared at the far end. Her eyes glowed faintly beneath the thin silver circuitry woven into her skin. "Running again, Althea?" she called, voice deceptively calm. "Or are you finally ready to finish what I started?" Althea raised her dagger. "You started nothing. You just destroyed everything." Silra laughed, stepping forward. "Oh, little sister. I reforged it." She lunged. Althea met her. The clash was brutal. Blade met blade. Sparks flared. Silra's enhanced reflexes pushed Althea to the brink, every move calculated to overwhelm. Caleb sprang in from the side, blade drawn, intercepting a downward slash that would have shattered Althea's collarbone. He didn't attack recklessly. He analyzed. Silra was fast, but predictable. Her augmentations favored raw speed, not creative counters. "You've studied me," Caleb said as they clashed again. "Downloaded combat profiles from Blacknet archives?" Silra smiled, pushing him back. "Paid top credit for them, and now I'll finish the legend in person." He ducked, slashed, twisted, barely keeping up. Behind him, Althea slashed low, catching Silra across the leg. Sparks burst where her blade struck cybernetic muscle. Silra snarled and retaliated, knocking Althea hard into the wall. Caleb surged forward, driving Silra back with a storm of strikes. But she absorbed the hits, her augmentations dispersing force like rubber against metal. "Still not enough, Ghost," she hissed. "No," Caleb said, "but she is." Althea sprang up again, leaping from the wall. Her dagger flashed, and this time it found a weak spot behind Silra's shoulder. The blade plunged deep, severing a key neural linkage. Her movements faltered. Caleb moved like a shadow, grabbing Silra from behind, driving the blunt edge of his weapon against her temple. She slumped, still breathing, still dangerous, but down. Althea stood over her, panting. "You were wrong," she said. "I didn't run because I was afraid of the truth. I ran because I knew what I had to become to stop you." They dragged Silra's unconscious form into the shaft, and the four descended into the tunnels, vanishing into the storm. Above them, alarms continued to scream, but something had shifted. This wasn't a rebellion anymore. This was the start of a war. Chapter 7. Galactic Law and Marriage Pact. The Galactic Council's chambers had not seen such chaos in decades. Diplomats, envoys, planetary representatives, every corner of the quadrant had someone present. News feeds projected the scene live to billions across the systems. Holocameras hovered like insects, capturing every angle. Whispers crackled through comlinks, and security personnel fidgeted in their armor. Then came the moment. The central aisle parted as four violet-skinned women entered in formation. Princess Althea at the front, flanked by her sisters Lucia and Reyna, and behind them a battered but still conscious Silra, restrained and glowering. And beside them, Caleb Stray, black coat torn, blade at his hip, every step deliberate and controlled. "The Ghost," someone muttered in disbelief. Pick zipped alongside him, broadcasting a subtle soundscape of diplomatic trumpets until Caleb gave it a glare sharp enough to melt titanium. "Sorry, dramatic instinct," the droid whispered. They stopped before the raised platform where High Counselor Lyros, a serpentine elder of the Jannari, presided. His elongated neck craned forward, eyes narrowing. "What is the meaning of this interruption?" he hissed. "These chambers are for recognized delegates." "I am a delegate," Althea said clearly, her voice amplified through internal vocal comms. "And I bring charges of treason, biological warfare, and interstellar conspiracy, carried out by members of this very council." Gasps rippled across the hall. The chamber dimmed as Lucia activated the portable holopad. A display shimmered into view. Genetic logs from Neuron 9, visual records of experiments, financial transfers to black-budget labs, and most damning of all, a forged kill order signed by multiple council members. The final image, a child's bloodied ID tag. "Enough," whispered Counselor Lyros. But the projection continued. Silra's own signature, authorizing shipment of biological test subjects. "It's fake," Silra spat. "Fabricated." Reyna stepped forward. "We recovered it from her private vault. You'll find matching biometric locks. It's real." "Even if it were," Silra snarled, "this doesn't change the succession. Althea is still wanted for regicide." "No," Caleb said, stepping forward. "She was framed." "And who are you to declare such things?" Lyros sneered. "I'm the one your bounty brought to her door," Caleb said coldly, "and the one who saw the truth in her eyes when your lies fell apart." Silence followed. Then from the shadows of the chamber, an elderly Gallian counselor stood. "There is precedent," she said slowly. "In the face of royaldom vision and civil fracture, galactic law permits an external defender, one who has bled for the royal bloodline, to unify the dynasty." "What?" Caleb asked sharply. The chamber erupted in noise. Reyna stiffened. Lucia blinked in disbelief. And Althea? Her eyes didn't widen. Instead, they narrowed, understanding exactly what the law implied. A marriage pact, the elder continued. A political union to restore balance, stabilize the quadrant, and prevent war. No, Caleb said instantly. I'm not part of your politics. I'm not a pawn. You don't have to be, Lucia said quietly. You'd be the piece that flips the board. Althea turned to him. It wouldn't be just about thrones or crowns. It would give us time, protection, power to expose the rest of the council's corruption, to save more lives. Oh, Pix floated between them all, beaming. Oh, my stars, are we planning a royal wedding? I've always wanted to be a ring bearer. Caleb ignored the droid. His eyes swept the room, saw the eyes watching him not as a man, but as a weapon, one now beyond their control. He turned to Varos. You want me to take a title? Sit on a throne? Rule like one of your puppets? No, Varos said carefully. We want peace. Caleb looked to Althea. Her face was calm, but beneath it, grief, strength, and fire swirled like a storm behind glass. You don't have to choose this, she whispered. Already did, he replied. Then to the council, I don't want your titles, I don't want your politics, but I won't let this dynasty fall to pieces while you sit on your hands, he turned to the sisters. You want unity? You've got it, but on my terms. Reyna stepped closer. What terms? I protect you, all of you. You rebuild this dynasty the right way, and no one ever controls me again. The chamber froze as Varos stepped back, and the elder Gallian counselor raised her ceremonial staff. By ancient law, she declared, the royal line is hereby unified under the protection and bond of Caleb Stray. Until such time as the council completes its investigation, he shall act as first defender of the House of Lyros. Reyna scoffed. That's not a real title. Lucia smiled. It is now. Pix spun in excited loops. Wait until I update the registry. There are ballrooms involved. Caleb rolled his eyes, but Althea smiled. Not the smile of a diplomat or princess, but a real one. Quiet, grateful, sad. Later, as the crowd began to disperse and the formalities took over, Caleb stood alone near a viewing platform. Rain lashed the city far below. Althea joined him in silence. I'm still not a king, he muttered. Good, she replied. I don't need a king. He looked at her. You sure you want me in this story? You were always in it, she said. You just didn't know it yet. Behind them, Reyna and Lucia were already arguing over military formations and palace renovations. Saura, restrained and seething, had been taken into custody pending trial, and Caleb Stray, once a ghost in the rain, had just changed the future of a dynasty. With a single word. Yes. Chapter 8. The Garden and the Ghost. The northern coast of Elysium was a far cry from the vertical neon jungles of Neostratus. Here, the wind smelled of salt and pine. Waves crashed gently against the cliffside, and towering ancient trees lined the perimeter of a facility that had once been a military outpost, but was now something entirely different. The compound sat nestled between forest and sea, hidden beneath atmospheric interference and shielded from orbital scans. Its purpose? To heal, to protect, and to quietly build a new future, far from the scheming of councils and crowns. Inside its glass-domed atrium, Caleb Stray sat cross-legged on a meditation mat, eyes closed, breathing steady, trying, unsuccessfully, not to think. You're still terrible at relaxing, came a familiar voice. Oh. Caleb opened one eye. Althea Lyros stood nearby, a datapad tucked under one arm, a teasing smile on her face. She'd traded her diplomatic gowns for sleek civilian attire, but her poise remained. She moved like she was still walking across marble floors, graceful, deliberate, calm. I'm trying, Caleb said. You always try too hard. She settled beside him on the mat with practiced ease. A few moments later, Pix floated in, now sporting gold trim and tiny faux ceremonial banners. Heart rate elevated, cortisol levels suggest you're thinking about work again, the droid announced. I recommend tea and hugs. No, Caleb muttered. Lucia smirked. He's coming around, Pix. Give him time. Statistically, Pix said, he's 63% more emotionally available now than 6 months ago. I regret installing those analytics, Caleb said. Lucia leaned back and looked up at the sunlight diffused through the curved ceiling. You know, This place used to house orbital strike control servers. I know, Caleb replied. I cleared out the last of the kill switch subroutines last week. She glanced sideways. And replaced them with what? Garden sensors, security drones, water purification systems. Lucia nodded. Not bad for a killer. Before he could reply, heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Enough meditating, Raina called out, striding into the atrium with a towel around her neck and sweat gleaming on her violet skin. Come spar with me, ghost. Pass, Caleb said. You promised 1 full month of no work, she reminded him. I promised to treat... Semantics, Raina shot back, tossing him a training baton. Come on, hit something. Better me than some poor syndicate enforcer who hasn't had breakfast. Lucia stood. Courtship rituals among the Lyros, so charmingly primitive. Caleb looked between them both, then at Pix. You recording all this? Always, Pix said, for posterity and the eventual memoir. Despite himself, Caleb cracked a smile. They were an odd unit, part royal, part rebellion, part misfit family. But it was real, and it was growing. That afternoon in the underground medical bay, Althea stood over a group of children in recovery chambers. Their skin was pale, some with traces of cybernetic residue from experiments conducted years prior. But their vitals were stable, their eyes clear, their laughter returning. The last group from Neuron 9 has responded to treatment, she said quietly as Caleb entered the room. The genetic damage is reversing, slowly but surely. He stepped beside her, watching the monitors. You did that. No, she said, we did. They stood in silence for a long moment, not awkward, just full of memory and pain and quiet pride. Althea turned to him. You didn't have to come back. I didn't, he agreed, but I chose to. That evening they gathered in the dining hall, Lucia setting the table with programmed etiquette, Raina arriving late with bruised knuckles and a proud grin, and Althea reviewing case files between bites of fresh bread. Even Silra, though still undergoing rehabilitation for her neurological conditioning, was allowed limited monitored visits. She remained quiet, different, not forgiven, but not forgotten. Pix floated above the group with a small holographic heart rotating above its head. Family Harmony Index, 94%, new record. Don't push it, Caleb warned. But he let himself be pulled into the warmth of it all, into the sound of laughter, of arguments over strategy games, of shared meals and inside jokes. He was still Caleb Stray, still the ghost. But slowly, piece by piece, something else had formed in his chest, not armor, something softer. Later that night, as Elysium's 3 moons rose over the ocean, Caleb stood on the balcony with a steaming mug in hand. The air was cool, filled with the scent of sea salt and distant rain. Althea joined him, barefoot, wearing a loose gray tunic. Her presence was quiet, confident. Regretting your choices yet? She asked. No. The answer came without hesitation. Even with Raina's 5 a.m. combat drills? Even with Lucia's 16-point dinner seating plans? He smiled, an expression once foreign, now easier. Even with that. From inside, a burst of laughter echoed. Raina and Lucia were arguing again, probably over who had better reflexes. Pix was giving unnecessary statistical analysis. Althea leaned into him. When I first saw you on that rooftop in Neostratos, she said, I thought you were the worst luck I'd ever had. It was, he said, for the people chasing you. She laughed, soft, clear. He turned toward her. You're not afraid of me anymore. I never was, she whispered. Her hand reached up, fingers tracing the line of the old scar across his jaw. And you, she added, are finally starting to live. They kissed, slow and deep and sure, not as royalty and weapon, not as fugitive and killer, but as something neither had expected to find. Home. Chapter 9, Rain, Reunion, and Redemption. It rained again on Elysium, but this rain was soft, gentle, the kind that nourished instead of drowns, that coats glass domes in silver film and makes forests shimmer like living emeralds. It was not the cold, cutting rain of Neostratos. Not anymore. Caleb Stray stood in the garden under the translucent atrium canopy, a cup of still steaming kava in one hand. A soft breeze drifted through open vents, carrying the scent of lavender from Lucia's herb rose and damp soil from Reyna's training grounds. In the distance, he could hear the laughter of children echoing from the education wing, some of them rescued from places like Neuron 9, places he once failed to stop. Not anymore. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. He didn't turn. "You're brooding again," Althea said, wrapping her arms around his waist. "I'm not a brooder," he murmured. "Just processing." She rested her cheek between his shoulder blades. "It's been 3 years, Caleb." "I know." He looked around at the garden, at the families it now housed, at the lives they'd rebuilt. The ghost once feared across galaxies now taught unarmed self-defense to orphans and repaired weather drones in his spare time. Pics floated by overhead, now with sleek white plating and a crown-shaped comm array. Rain detected. Forecast, cleansing symbolism with a 73% chance of closure. Caleb chuckled. "Subtle, aren't you?" "Always." Althea let go and stepped beside him, her tunic wet from the mist, but she didn't care. "You've changed," she said. "So have you." She didn't deny it. "And the galaxy?" "Still broken," he replied, "but healing, like us." They stood quietly as the rain pattered across the greenhouse dome. From the main courtyard, Lucia's voice rang out. "Reyna, if you install another turret near the children's garden, I swear, it's non-lethal and it tracks rodents. You said that last time. It vaporized the picnic table. I tuned it down." Althea laughed and leaned into Caleb's side. "And that's our dynasty now. The warrior, the diplomat, the droid, and you. What does that make me?" "The choice we all made," she said simply. Inside the hall, Reyna emerged from the training deck, still sweating from drills. She tossed Caleb a towel. "You're late. It's my day off." "You don't get days off." "Apparently I do now," he said, drying his hands. Laughter broke out from the common area. Children gathered around a hollow table where pics projected 3D stories. Tales of old heroes, of survival, of rebellion, of family. Some of them even starred a shadowy figure in a long black coat who never quite admitted he had feelings. Pics looked proud of his storytelling legacy. Reyna sat on the bench beside Caleb. "You still think of leaving?" "Sometimes." "Why don't you?" Caleb took a long breath. "Because I stopped being afraid of staying." Reyna nodded. "Good." Later that evening, as twilight soaked the coastline in orange and violet, the sisters stood together on the observation platform overlooking the sea. Caleb joined them, his coat flapping lightly in the breeze. Althea reached for his hand, lacing her fingers through his. Lucia folded her arms. "The council has ratified the reforms. The House of Lyros will act as a neutral protectorate, overseeing rehabilitation zones like Neuron 9. An empire of healing instead of conquest," Reyna said. "Weird," Caleb muttered. "But good," Althea smiled. Pics hovered near, projecting fireworks over the water, programmed to celebrate without sound, out of respect for the children sleeping below. "You've done well, Ghost," Pics said. "I'm not the ghost anymore." "No," Althea agreed. "You're just Caleb." He looked out toward the stars, toward the systems still broken, the people still lost, the empire still sick with greed and violence. But he didn't feel like a weapon anymore. He felt like a man, and more than that, he felt like part of something worth defending. From inside the tower, a voice called, "Dinner!" Caleb turned to the sisters. "Let's go home." They walked together, 4 siblings and the man who'd once fallen from a rooftop with nothing to live for but the next contract. Now he walked not as a blade, but as their choice. As the rain slowed and the stars began to pierce through the clouds, Pics floated above the group, whispering quietly, "Peace for now." Epilogue. In a galaxy forged by war, lies, and silence, one man became more than a ghost. He became a guardian. Not by law, not by blood, but by choice, and sometimes that's the most powerful truth of all. In a galaxy fractured by betrayal, one man found not just redemption, but something worth living for. Thank you for joining us on this journey through neon skies, ancient laws, and hearts scarred by war. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with fellow starfarers, and don't forget to subscribe to Beyond the Stars for more tales of love, war, and everything in between. Until our next voyage, stay bold, stay curious, and keep looking up. Because the stars, they're just the beginning.